During the next few days, it's expected to get below freezing in my area, and I figured it would be a good time to show you my process for preparing my rain barrels and drip irrigation system for the fall and winter season. And as some of you know, it's critical to take proactive steps to help protect your system from potential damage caused by freezing temperatures. By taking some of the simple steps I'll show you in this video shortly could help you avoid costly repairs and ensure the longevity of your rain barrel and drip irrigation system. So enough talking, let's get started. So my wife and I figured it was also a good time to do some garden maintenance and get rid of any dead plants and vegetables to make it easier to remove any drip irrigation parts I plan to store away. Also, if you're new to this channel or happen to have missed one of my videos that explain how I set up the drip irrigation or rain barrel system, or maybe you're just curious to see how it works, there will be links in the description below to all the different projects to help you get up to speed. Anyway, for any fruit or vegetables that had pest damage, we just threw those in the composter, and if you're curious to learn how I built the composter, you can find a link in the description below. So once the garden was a little cleaner, I could then easily access and remove all my end caps on my commercial drip irrigation line so that any remaining water could drain out. Afterwards, I removed all my water lines from my rain barrel supply line, and it's also recommended to remove any filters or pressure regulators when winterizing your system. I then started to work on prepping my rain barrel's first flush system for the winter, and I'll be honest, this year the DIY shit I've been working on has took up most of my time, so I really haven't been maintaining my first flush system as much as I should have, so I guess you'll get to see what poor maintenance looks like and what not to do. So as expected, the filter system in my first flush was completely clogged up with debris and whatever else, so the system was not able to drain correctly and was just holding water inside the chamber. Once all the water was drained, I removed the bottom screw cap and sealing ball, which will remain indoors for the winter season so that any future rain will simply pour right out of the first flush chamber and bypass entering my rain barrels. Afterwards, before storing everything away, this was a good time to do some maintenance and rinse all the first flush components. After the first flush system was cleaned, I switched my attention back to the garden and began disassembling my DIY PVC drip irrigation system. Now this system, by the way, has worked surprisingly well for the few years I've had it installed, and I'll definitely leave a link to the video below if you missed how I put it together and how it works. Now I usually take the system apart because usually there's still some water that remains in the pipes even when the water is turned off. So to avoid running into burst pipes come next spring, which I have had happen before, it's better to take 5 to 10 minutes to quickly remove the system. Finally, it was time to start draining out my rain barrels, and to my surprise, they were completely filled. To speed up the draining process, I used my rain barrel's water pump already installed, and to ensure I removed as much water as possible, I inverted my float switch so that the pump would always think there was enough water in the barrels and not automatically turn off. If you want to learn more about how I have the float switch wired to my water pump, I'll leave a link in the description below. Since I didn't want all the rain barrel water to pour into my garden area, I temporarily hooked up a small garden hose to reroute the water to another area of my yard. I then used my remote switch to start my water pump to start the draining process. Now, because my water exit point was installed at the bottom of my rain barrels, most of the water can easily be removed from the barrels, unlike barrels that have the spigots installed on the side. To remove the remaining water, you have a few options, and some people would simply unhook the barrels and flip them upside down and drain out any remaining water. However, I decided to leave my barrels connected and use what I had on hand to create a way to suck out most of the remaining water. So I first connected a female to female garden hose to my old water transfer pump. Then I used a leftover filter that is meant for my commercial drip irrigation system so that any debris that was sucked out of the rain barrels would not enter and damage my pump. Afterwards, I connected some leftover vinyl tubing to an adapter that had a 3/4 inch male garden hose fitting on one side and a 1/2 inch barb connection on the other. To complete the setup, I connected a small garden hose to the outlet side of the pump. Now, this video isn't sponsored, but to power the 12-volt pump, I use my Blue Eddy portable power station, but any power station that can supply 10 or more amps of power will work. Now, I'm not suggesting this is the best way to remove water from rain barrels, but this was just a last minute idea I had that used components I had laying around. But the main point here is to try to remove as much water as you can to prolong the life of your barrels and any pipes connected to the system. To drain out my rain barrel emergency refill source, all I needed to do is shut off the main water and open up the PVC ball valve. You can find a link to this project in the description as well. Since my own demand pump is not stored in an insulated or climate controlled area, it is recommended to disconnect the pump so that any water left in the pump does not freeze and expand, which may potentially damage internal components. Of course, before working on the pump, be sure to turn off the pump's main power source. After the pump was removed, to help remove any remaining water that was inside my PVC pipe located underground, I used compressed air to blow out the water. Now, if your PVC pipe is buried below your area's frost line, or you design your pipe to slope downward so that you can drain out the pipe, this step may not apply to you. Since I didn't have the correct air nozzle type for this step, again I used what I had on hand to get the job done by using some tape to create a seal around my PVC pipe and the tip of my blowgun. Once most of the water was removed, it was time to finish cleaning up and storing away my water pump and hose lines. The final component I needed to drain and prep for the next spring season was my incoming sediment filter. Since the cover for my filter is clear and water will rest in the area even after it stops raining, algae began to form. This can easily be fixed by wrapping the filter with some non-transparent fabric like what I used for my first flush chamber, and that's probably what I'll do in the future. To clean the filter, I usually just spray the components down with a garden hose nozzle. Anyway, that about wraps it up for the things I usually do to prepare my rain barrel and drip irrigation systems for the fall and winter seasons. And remember, the main reason we take the effort to complete these steps is to safeguard our barrels, pipes, and pumps from potential damage. Also, as I mentioned, there are many areas that could be improved to make this process easier in the future, so definitely learn from my mistakes to make your life just a little easier. And feel free to share any other things you typically do to protect your outdoor water related systems during the colder months in the comments below. If you found this video useful and think others might, please be sure to bump that like button and subscribe to encourage YouTube to share this video with others and so you don't miss out on future videos. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.